Radio Brockley, officially London's #1 hospital radio station.
Hello and welcome to Brockley News, Radio Brockley's weekly show with news, interviews and information, including updates on all you need to know about what's happening in and around the hospital. I'm Alan Joyce, and coming up this evening we'll be hearing from Mary Frances Byrne, who is a nurse on the Margaret Hart ward. We'll be finding out about a very special fundraiser that she did over the last few weeks. We'll also be hearing from news legend John Humpries, who'll be telling us a little bit about his amazing career. Then at 7:30, your chance to win some super Radio Brockley goodies without leaving your bed on Bedside Bingo with David Rauch. Good luck if you're playing along this evening. And then at 8 o'clock tonight, or thereabouts, it's all your choice of tunes on the Sunday Request Show with Keith Reeve. So stay tuned to London's official #1 hospital radio station, London's longest running hospital radio. It is Radio Brockley. So we like to talk about some special fundraisers here at the RNOH, and this evening is no exception. Mary Frances Byrne works on the Margaret Hart ward, and she's done a very, very special fundraiser. To find out all about it, making her debut on Brockley News, here's our reporter Maureen Heywood.
I am Maureen Heywood, and I'm very lucky to be speaking to Mary Frances Byrne, who is at present working on Margaret Hart ward. Now, Mary has been doing some very interesting things for the Orthopaedic Hospital and also, I think, for Aspire, which is the leisure centre associated with this. And I first came across Mary doing this interesting thing when she worried me very much because I saw her dripping wet in a nurse's uniform by the side of the pool. I thought, what has happened here? Has somebody had a problem? Mary, would you like to tell us why you were in such a state?
Good evening, Radio Brockley. Good evening, Maureen. And hello to everybody listening. Yes, I'm afraid I'm a rather sad state of affairs. Last July, there was a conversation in the swimming pool. It was between myself and two other chaps, Alex being one, Gillian being the second chap. So Alex had been congratulated on because this time last year he had done the channel swim, so he didn't swim 22 miles. That chap actually did 44, there and back inside 6 weeks. So of course the conversation was centred around whether I was going to attempt the channel swim, and I said absolutely not. So when I inquired how much training Alex had done, he said 7 years. I thought, my God, I've only been coming to the pool for over a year, and he's a former trained lifeguard. Now, there's a difference here. Most people who come into Aspire to use that wonderful facility are all trained swimmers in swimming pools. I trained in the Atlantic. That's a lot harder. So I said, look, guys, thank you for the suggestion. However, I'm nowhere near that level. But I suppose I could do some sort of a challenge. Before I realised I had agreed to do a 2-mile swimming challenge, dressed in a nurse's uniform, wearing a 70s style nurse's hat. And when I had said yes, I suddenly dawned on me, oh my good God, I can't get out of this now because there's 2 witnesses to this conversation. There's 2 against 1. I said, okay, I'll give it a go. So initially the idea was I was going to swim for Aspire because February this year for the RNOH charity, I had organised and written the competition rules for a small-sided football event. So we started the first RNOH small-sided football event, gentlemen's competition. 4 teams got involved, and I'm pleased to report, last week I got an email to say from that event alone we had raised over £500, which shocked me because I didn't even know we'd raised that amount for the RNOH charity. So as a thank you to Aspire, I thought, well, you know what, I'll do something for them next. So when I started asking my colleagues about sponsorship and of course trying to find all these different uniforms, and I'm thinking to myself, good God, what have I really agreed to doing? Some of my colleagues said, well, why don't you swim for the hospital charity too? So I agreed. So I started training in August. The first length, I have to say, was hard work because when I weighed myself dry in a swimsuit, obviously I'm a certain weight. With the uniform on, I'm a kilo heavier. And then you get into a pool and you weigh yourself wet weight, and I'm 2 kilos heavier. And I thought, oh my word, how am I going to do 2 miles carrying this amount of weight? Thank God there's lifeguards on duty, because I'm probably going to need them.
So, Mary, how much training did you actually do before you started the challenge itself?
Well, the plan sort of, maybe I'll start in August. So I did start in August. So between August to the end of October, I had done almost 7 weeks training in various outfits, using various swimming strokes to see what was harder and what was lighter and how well I could manage.
Now, when I saw you last week, I saw you doing the crawl, I do believe. And in fact, it was the end of your challenge and you kept on going out of the water frequently. Can you explain the reason why?
Oh, that's well, as I said, I had agreed to this 2-mile swimming challenge, and I wasn't aware, but I did have to go and ask the big boss in the hospital, the director of nursing, Professor Fish, about permission to wear various tunics representing various levels of nurses. And it was pointed out to me that there was 3 universities represented here for student nurses, so I then had to go and source those outfits. So all in all, last count, last week I had ended up with 38 different types of uniforms and various attachments to represent different teams in the hospital. So even though I have done the 2-mile distance, I still have 6 different teams I have to represent. So yes, you are right, Maureen. You did see me in and out wearing different tops. And this evening, I did 6 lengths wearing a teddy bear on my back to represent pediatrics, and prior to that I did 2 lengths in a skirt, a top and a scarf with tights representing secretaries and the PA team.
Well, I'm really sorry that I missed those sights. I'm sure that you are a fantastic sight to see. So, Mary, with all of this, could you tell us, do you know what your total is so far that you have raised?
I'm not quite sure yet, because the next challenge will be collecting it all. Because tomorrow and next week, tomorrow I will have to swim with 3 tape measures to represent dietetics team, and a swimsuit obviously. Next week I'll have to be in navy blue trousers again and a navy blue fleece to represent estates. I think that'll be quite a challenge because a fleece is heavy. And then I will finish the sponsored swim wearing a hard hat and a yellow visor, which represents the new building, the team for the new hospital, and then it's officially completed. So money-wise, I believe I have raised just under £400 for Aspire, and I believe I have raised nearly £800 for the RNOH charity.
Well, that is absolutely amazing. Do you have any idea how this money is going to be used?
No, that hasn't been discussed yet. The challenge for me was A, agree to a challenge, which I've done. B, complete the challenge, which the distance I've done, all the uniforms I haven't finished yet. And C, collect it all, and then we'll have a discussion about where the money is going. Yes.
If anybody wishes to contribute further to this, is there any way that they can actually do this?
Yes, they can. I do have a Just Giving webpage. And if you look for my name, Mary Frances Byrne, if you look for Just Giving under the RNOH website, you should find me there. And also for the Just Giving for Aspire, it'll be Mary Frances Byrne with 1 after my surname.
I hope you have had lots of photographs taken with all these outfits. I mean, I would especially like the one with the hard hat. And I think that you are doing that tomorrow morning. Are you not doing? No, it's with something else you're doing tomorrow morning, because I was going to say I'm going to be at the pool tomorrow. Unfortunately, I don't think we're allowed cameras at poolside. But Mary, have you had any photographs taken? Because I'm sure that ought to be up somewhere or other for us to see.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, you are quite right. There are no cameras allowed poolside. But then to say thank you to everybody who has supported me and wished me well and sponsored me financially. And all of the various comments I have got over the whole programme doing this swim. The lifeguards, I did have permission. They took photographs for me, plus communications from the RNOH Trust itself came in and photographed me. And also all my lengths have been officially counted, including my training lengths, because I had done 6 miles in training. So far I have swum over 8 miles.
Well, for somebody who wasn't such a trained swimmer, it seems to me that you've done a lot in swimming, and no doubt your fitness has improved tremendously. What's your next challenge, Mary? I mean, we're not letting you off the hook. You're obviously very good at this.
My next challenge, dare I say this, a manager in Aspire made a comment the other day, and he did say, Mary, you're not getting off lightly. And I said, oh dear. And I think it's to do with the fact Aspire had a challenge a couple of weeks ago where you had to get on one of those exercise bikes and you had to cycle as far as you could in 2 minutes. The winner had cycled 1.9 miles in 2 minutes, which is excellent. Excuse me, I did 1.7 soaking wet. That's the difference. So I said to triathlon, no, forget that. But the comment was, Mary, what about a marathon? I said, that's running, that's definitely not. I think my next challenge, maybe for fundraising, would be something to do with the allotments. I've rented 2 allotments and it's terrible, 14, 15 months, I haven't done anything with them yet. But maybe we could grow something to sell at the Buttercup Walk, who knows? It's just an idea, we'll see.
Well, that sounds really good. It sounds like you better start working now if you want the Buttercup Challenge. When is that? Is that in June or so? Sometime then. So I think you actually got to work quite hard over the winter, break that ground. Now, I heard you say that the orthopaedic hospital was a magical place. Could you explain to the listeners why you said that?
Well, the orthopaedic hospital, I'll be very honest, it's not what I expected. I went to a recruitment fair in September 2015 for nurses, health visitors and midwives in the United Kingdom. My clinical interest is orthopaedics. So obviously I went to this recruitment fair and the RNOH was represented. And I was asked, A, was I a nurse? And B, would I consider working for them? So I said, yes, I'll consider it. So a couple of days later, I arrived at the hospital for the assessment interview process. I had got a cab from Stanmore station, arrived in outpatients and thought, where's the hospital? And I'm standing there and this rather helpful porter said, ma'am, can I help? I said, yes, excuse me, where's the Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital? And he goes, ma'am, this is it. I said, you're kidding. He said, what were you looking for? I said, 7-8-story modern build hospital. He says, oh no, ma'am, this is it. He said, where do you need to be? I said, the education centre. So I went and I done the assessments, done an interview. They offered me a post, hence why I'm here today. When I went home that evening, the family said, well, hey, mum, how'd the interview go? I said, oh, I've been offered a post. I'm delighted, but I'm not so sure. They said, what's wrong? I said, it's falling down. It's a bit like me. It's falling to pieces. But it is magical in many respects because it's got lots of different things to it. It's got phenomenal history. It's a joy for many patients and visitors who come here. Just the concept of having wards off a slope for a start. You think orthopaedics, wow. 2 patients could be sitting outside in the evening and you'll hear an owl making noises and then a feather will appear before you and you think, wow, we're in Harry Potter land. We have a lake down the bottom. We've also got an orchard. There is a chap who comes in and tends to the bees because the bees colony is where the former tennis court lawn was for Brockley House Estate during some time in the 1800s, I believe. There's other things, you know. Many people visit the hospital every day and they get lost, like me, because they were looking for a modern build hospital that's in the process of being built but wasn't there 2 years ago. and you walk across the road giving somebody directions, and it's traffic lights, and you turn your head and 3 horses overtake you with 3 riders, and you think, wow, am I in the Twilight Zone? And you know, there's just lots of different things. You have to smile when you're here. Because if you came to this, facility and you're not feeling great, I'm sure you would be laughing by the time you leave. The teams are wonderful and the service is excellent, and that's why they are the #1 orthopaedic hospital in the world. And it is both an honour, privilege and a joy to be part of the staff.
Well, it is wonderful to find somebody who obviously enjoys their job as much as you. Well, Mary, thank you so much for being interviewed, or actually having this conversation this evening. It has been an absolute joy, and I'm sure that you will do ever so well with this present project and get more and more people adding to it, and future ones. Thank you for giving up your time. It's been wonderful to talk to you. Thank you.
Maureen, it has been an absolute joy, and thank you to everybody in Radio Brockley. And oh, by the way, Radio Brockley, I did wear the t-shirt in the pool. And Radio Brockley, when you interviewed me in June, yes, Cinnamon did win the dog show. So I would encourage all listeners, please enter the dog show at the Buttercup Walk next June. Cinnamon won't be defending her title because we'll give somebody else a chance.
Oh, she's so kind, isn't she? Mary, thank you once again.
What a brilliant lady. Sure to put a smile on anyone's face, and well done to Mary Frances Byrne for her efforts there.
You're tuned to Radio Brockley, 24 hours a day, playing you non-stop music as we wait for Santa's sleigh. If you like your music festive, this is what you can do. Call us up or go online and we'll play your favourite Christmas tune.
Call Radio Brockley on 0208 954 6591, extension 5483, or visit www.radiobrockley.org.
Ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas!
Radio Brockley, your #1 recuperation station.
And Radio Brockley will be with you over Christmas with a whole bunch of special programmes. We'll be here next Sunday on Christmas Eve for some special shows, including a look at the Christmas Top 40. We're finding out if that song by Wham makes it to Christmas #1. It might do, you know. Still to come this evening, though, we've got Bedside Bingo, your chance to win some Super Radio Brockley goodies, coming up in, just about 10 minutes from now. And then all your choice of tunes on the Sunday Request Show at around 8 o'clock this evening. Just before we go tonight, then, let's have a listen to this interview from a few months back from newsreader legend John Humpries. You may have known him from Radio 4's The Today programme and, of course, on Mastermind as well. Well, our very own Mastermind, Keith Reeve, went along to meet him.
Well, I'm very pleased that legendary broadcaster John Humpries has given me some of his special time this morning. Thank you very much and good morning.
Good morning, great pleasure.
And I've just got a few questions here, John. I'm sure you've been asked all of these before. You were raised in the delightfully named district of Cardiff called Splot.
Yeah, I was born in Splot. It's one of those places that sounds rather more ghastly than it was. It's a poor bit of Cardiff. Always has been a poor bit of Cardiff, certainly when I was born. But lively, and I have to say it wasn't a bad place to be brought up. I mean, in those days I was born when the war was still going on in 1943, and one of my memories is because we didn't have a shelter in our back garden, and Cardiff was being bombed quite a lot because of the docks and the steelworks and all that, and I used to get carried in a box when I was asleep at night to the local chemist shop, and they had a cellar, so we took refuge in the cellar, in the cellar, and that I've got a kind of tiny vague memory somewhere in the back of my head that really happened, but it probably didn't. At least I doubt that I remember it. It's just recovered memory, if you like.
That's a lovely story. So, I mean, your first roles were on local press, weren't they, before you got any national roles?
Yeah, I worked for a local newspaper. I left school at 15. Didn't like it, didn't like school, that is. Hated it, in fact. And as soon as I could, I left and I went to join the local newspaper. And then I went to a bigger newspaper. And then I went to a bigger newspaper. And then I accepted a job with the Sunday Times in London. I'd hardly ever been to London. I'd only been there twice in my whole life. And they offered me a job on what was then the brand new Insight column. And I accepted it. And I came back to London, met some mates in the pub. And one of them told me that he just got a job as news editor at the local television station, TWW, the ITV station. He said, why don't you come to us instead? So I said, all right. So I told the Sunday Times I wasn't coming to them, and they were very cross, and that was it.
And then you moved to the BBC and covered the Liverpool dock strikes, amongst many other big stories over the years. Which do you think was the most difficult for you to report?
The most difficult story for me that I've ever covered was the Aberfan disaster. I was based in Cardiff, reporting not for the BBC but for HTV, the independent television company, and I got wind that there'd been a tip slide, a coal tip had slid in the Merthyr Vale village, and I went up there, and when I got there, it was the most horrendous sight you've ever seen. The tip had slid down the mountain and it had crushed part of the village beneath it, and of course the school. And when I got there, there were, I don't know, millions and millions of tons of this filthy waste crushing the school, and the miners were standing on top of it, digging. These were the miners, of course, who'd worked in the Merthyr Vale Quarry, whose work had created that horrible, horrible tip. And they were digging for their own children, and it was the most hideous sight. Their faces were still black because they'd just come up from the colliery, and there were streaks of tears and sweats running down there. Oh, it was absolutely hideous. And you'd sort of hear every so often they would shout to us to be quiet, because they thought they'd heard a child crying. Sometimes they did, and sometimes they did rescue children, but mostly it was bodies they were digging out, and that went on for some days, and by the end of it there were 116 dead children and 28 dead adults, and I will never ever forget the horror of that, pure horror.
I've been there, and I know what you mean. The graveyard just is a generation, isn't it? It's a generation gone, sadly.
Indeed.
You've been presenting Radio 4 Today programme since 1987. I listened to you this morning, 6 o'clock. How do you do it every day?
By going to bed early. It's very, very simple. People think it's some sort of amazing achievement. It's not. You just go to bed early, and then you can get up early. It is that simple. I'm in bed by 8:30. And if I'm not, there has to be a very, very, very good reason. And I do not go out on the lash the night before. I've given all that up. And at least on the nights before, I do the programme, make up for it on the other nights, obviously. But that's it. There's no secret to it. You just go to bed early.
Makes sense. You've been hosting Mastermind since 2003. If you were a contestant on the programme...
No, I'll stop you there, because you're going to ask me, I know everybody always does, what subject would you choose? And the answer is none, because I wouldn't do it. Nothing in the whole wide world would persuade me to sit in that black chair. I would not do it. I would be the sort of contender when they said to you, and your name... I'd say, oh, God, hang on, let me think. No, nothing would get me in the black chair.
Fair enough. And what do you think, if you could change anything about your wonderful career, you would change?
I haven't the first idea. I've been phenomenally lucky. That's the truth of it. I mean, that's the thing about journalism. If you're lucky, you do well. If you have the right stories. I mean, for instance, I was sent off to the United States when I was, 27, and I was meant to go for 3 months to open up a bureau. We didn't have a television news bureau in those days in New York, and within days of arriving there, the Watergate story broke, and so for the next 6 years, I didn't stay for 3 months, I stayed for 6 years, that was the biggest story. Of course, it was the biggest story in the world. Great luck, you could argue. Well, of course it was luck. What else was it? I didn't plan the Watergate break-ins. I went to, my first foreign story was in East Pakistan, because there was trouble with the local people, fighting a lot of other local people. And anyway, the result of that was the Indo-Pakistan war, and I happened to be there when the war broke out. Big story, and I was there on the spot again. Pure luck, nothing to do with me. And so on. Went down to South Africa to open up a bureau down there, and within a matter of months of being there, the president was forced to resign because of a big scandal, and so on and so on. It's being in the right place at the right time, and mostly you can't plan it. So I've been phenomenally lucky. I suppose the only thing I regret never having done in the course of my career is an interview with the Queen, but I have asked her and she said no, so I suppose that's an end of that, and I don't propose to ask her again.
There's always time, John. I was going to say to you, what are your plans for the future? And maybe that's one of them.
Well, if she's listening and she would like to do it, I'll be around at Buckhouse whenever she says.
Wonderful. I might be in the queue with you there. John Humpries, thank you very much indeed for your time today.
Great pleasure.
I'll put in a good word for him. Thank you very much to John Humpries for giving up his time to speak to us here at Radio Brockley. And that's just about it for the last Brockley News of 2017. Next week, we've got a very special show, as I mentioned earlier, looking at the UK Christmas Singles Top 40 charts. We'll be finding out who is Christmas number one. In 2 weeks' time, we're not here because it's New Year's Eve, but in 3 weeks' time, we'll be looking at the nominations for the annual Hospital Broadcasting Association Awards and looking back on 12 months here at Radio Brockley. And don't forget, you can catch up on previous editions of Brockley News by logging onto our website, radiobrockley.org, and following the links to our YouTube website from there. Coming up next, it is Bedside Bingo, your chance to win some goodies. Good luck if you're playing along. And then around 8 o'clock tonight, all your choice of tunes on the Sunday Request Show with Keith Reeve. From me, Alan Joyce, good night.